Hello everyone, and welcome for this new release of Xen Orchestra. This time we got the 5.97, and this release is all about bringing more stability and also some new features. So we are really happy to do that, knowing that we made a release last month, 1 week late. So this time we had only 3 weeks to make this release. So, really happy to manage to stay on time at the last day of the month. This way, giving you again many things, despite the fact it was only 3 weeks. So let's start, as we do, with the project and community news we have in general. So we made the release candidate 1 for XCP-ng 8.3. I will give you more detail about that very soon. We are organizing our first Xen project event in Grenoble, and we also have some security updates. So let's talk quickly about the RC1. So the RC1 is like 5 months of work after the beta 2. And this is very likely one of the last steps before we got the final release. So maybe we'll have an RC2, maybe not. It's not clear yet. But we spend a lot of time to be sure all the situation are handled and so on. And it takes, believe me, a lot of time. We're bringing a new Lite version, improve the secure boot stuff for your VMs. We even integrated the PCI pass-through API, making it available right through Xen Orchestra UI. We presented that feature like, I don't know, two releases ago, something like this, but it's already bundled into the RC1. There's many things. I won't enter into all the details, but I strongly suggest that you go to the website, the blog announcements, and you could read the FAQ presenting you all the details, how to use it, the pros and cons. Remember that is an RC1, it's not a final version. We've seen so many people already using it into production. Sure, you can do that, but keep in mind that we do not support non-final version in our professional support. So if you want to upgrade, do that when it's done or on a non-critical part of your infrastructure, because clearly it's still in the works, even if we know we have users since the Alpha 1 and it works pretty in a stable fashion. But that's not the most harder thing. The harder thing is the upgrade path and so on and so on. So if you wait for the final release, it might be easier to make the switch. Plus, it's still not an LTS, and if you want to keep absolute stability for your platform, you might stick on the 8.2 release that is an LTS. You can download the ISOs, and you can read all the details. Some is made by the Xen Server project, some by the Zappy project, and also a reasonable amount of things is also done on our side. So take a look at the blog post. There's a link from the Xen Orchestra blog post directly. That's very interesting, and you would learn many things. Let's switch to the next important thing that I wanted to share to you before talking about the release is we've managed to have the green light from the Xen project. So as a reminder, Vates is a board member of the Xen project. But what we wanted to do is to, let's say, generate more new people coming into the Xen ecosystem. So that's why we took the initiative to create an event right in Grenoble, where we're based in France, in the Alps, but also bridging gaps, building bridges with the academic world and so on. So for that, we made an effort to get the venue done. As you know, we are contributing to the Xen project from many things. It could be, technical improvements, project improvement, providing CI. As you can see in the article, we are racking more and more stuff that could be used in the near future for the Xen project to run more CI in a modern fashion. We are porting the platform to Ampere CPUs and so on. But we wanted to go further, and doing that is building real Xen events more than once a year, getting new people working the project, bringing fresh blood in the community. It's like any open source project that is mostly focused on the system. The community, the active community of developers is getting older because there's not that much new people entering into it because it's hard, it's not that sexy than, I don't know, AI or thing like this. So you have to help the project to get those fresh blood. So that's exactly what we do, and that's the goal of these events, and we are truly proud to organize it, to have design sessions, tech talks. It will be like the end of January. We are hosted by the University of Grenoble, so it's an honor because it's a great building and we'll have many students, but also PhDs and professors and so on. So we think that would be a truly important event. And if you are Xen developer or contributor or a future Xen contributor, you could go on the website and pre-register for the event. It will be free, but it will be validated to be sure that you are interested in the Xen project. But to me, that's another demonstration that we want to go further with the Xen project, as it's not just used inside the Vates stack, but it's truly the core of our target to improve it. So that's why it's important to us and why we are now hosting the future of Xen. Getting back to XCP-ng, so yes, the RC1 is now available, but in the meantime, we are keeping up to date regarding all the security updates. As you might know now, since few years, we have, let's say, a pace of one security release per month, something like this. So this time it's about XSA 458 and 459. More details on the blog posts, but all in all, it's non-critical stuff. But again, we encourage people to stay up to date. So once a month is a reasonable pace, especially if you use rolling pull update features of Xen Orchestra and so on. This is a best practice to stay up to date, to be sure that you're protected. I mean, we invest, and the entire Xen project invests a lot of efforts to get a hypervisor that is truly secure and giving you a level of isolation that you do not have with, for example, KVM or something like this. So this hardware deserves to have the updates done on your side, because otherwise that will be just wasting all the efforts. So yeah, stay up to date. That's truly important. And now let's switch to the release by itself. As I said earlier, it's only 3 weeks worth of work we've done, but still we managed to deliver many things. First is improving the new feature we just released last month, called CBT, so chain block tracking. We improved it. There are still some rough edges. So again, like for any non-production ready features or previews, keep in mind that the code base is like only 3 months old. So if you want to try CBT, go ahead, but keep in mind that you won't have the level of stability you had with the pre-existing backup method. So keep that in mind. It should be like in maybe one release or two, get to a level of maturity that will be rock solid. But right now there's still some rough edges. So stay tuned. But again, we've seen last month all the benefits of it, so you can review the previous video if you like, or the previous podcast, depending on if you're watching it or listening to it. But anyway, I won't go into the details, but we've still made many improvements, and maybe it's like we have few bugs left, but it's moving into the right direction. And it's a bit tricky because obviously we test it internally, but there's so many ways to use it in so many different storages and so on, and use cases. That's thanks again, by the way, the community, for the great feedback you gave us, and would love to continue to have this feedback. I forgot to re-put the link in the blog post toward the thread on our forums. I will re-put that back to be sure that if you're trying it right now, you can provide all the problems you might have or improvements that you'd like to see. So anyway, greatly improved, but not yet finished entirely. We also improved the backup reports. Now you could track exactly how the backup happened, like if it was transferred using NBD or CBT, it will be displayed in all the details. So it's a lot better than before. Remember, we just improved the reports last month with this new themes. That is a lot easier to, I would say, modify to add whatever we need. So that's the first great example of why redoing it from scratch was a good idea, because in only 2 releases, we are now providing more information about the backup. And still about backup, sometimes people do not want it to be, let's say, alerted or receive a notification when they have a backup that is skipped. So a skip backup is, for example, if you are doing a backup too often, for example, our coalesce protection will just skip the backup, or if a previous backup is still running, it will be skipped. So maybe it's not something bad because you on purpose or you are very aware that some backup could overlap, so you don't want to be notified about it. It's not a failure, so you could just report when failure only, or keep the existing behavior with skipped and failure, which was the previous one. But now you could switch to failure only and you won't have any notification for any skip backup. So it's up to you, but it's another choice to avoid being hampered with so many notifications if you don't care about any skip backup. And the final backup, let's say, improvement for this month is the capability to add extra recipients for the metadata backup. So until now, it was like just something we forgot when we created the metadata backup. You could report to the main email configured in the email or Slack, plugin notification, but you couldn't add any extra email in report recipients. And now you could do so like you could do with regular backups. So it works even for your metadata backup. And remember, those metadata backups could be really important. If you just lose, for example, the host and not the disk, the VM disk, because they are on shared storage, metadata backup could save the day. And you could also save the Xen Orchestra configuration, which is not a big deal, but when you have, I don't know, 200-300 machines, getting a fresh Xen Orchestra and add all the new hosts could be a bit cumbersome. And if you just restore the config, that's more handy. So yeah, metadata backup reward is now improved. So that's it for the backup part of things. We added a new category called hardware integration, and it's brand new. And to show you why it's great, we have the first hardware integration that is visible in Xen Orchestra, which is really exciting. So if you remember, or maybe you forgot, we made a partnership with 2CRSI earlier this year. We announced it as just the end of the CloudFest. 2CRSI is a French server manufacturer, so they are assembling components and building, I would say, custom servers, but now they are Mona series, which is a brand of machines that is workhorses for your IT, like a bit the Dell R whatever series, like 600, something like this. It's based on Epic CPUs, and those machines are coming now with XCP-ng pre-installed on it, so it might be great to get everything out of the box. But the other plus that we are now providing with those machines is we have extra hardware information that is displayed right into it. So it's pretty cool because right into the host view, so let me zoom on it, right into the host view, you can have all the information for accessing directly the IPMI. You just have to click on that. You have the total power used by the machine, if you have one failed PSU or removed PSU, the current highest CPU temperature, the status of all the fans, the highest rotation per minute for all the fans, the inlet and outlet temperature. So all of that will displayed instantly because we will detect that you're running on a 2CRSI mono machine. So and it also means that the server, in also the host view, it's not visible here, but will display a green check showing that this server is not just compatible, it's certified. So it means we discussed with the engineers who assemble these machines, and we are able to check those values if they're okay or not with the manufacturer. So that's where we can bring the highest value. The future plans are to be able even to check if the firmware/BIOS are up to date, and the final step will be even to make the update directly from Xen Orchestra. So we're continuing to get more hardware providers. We'll announce another one in the next months for smaller machines, and we'll also try to provide similar things. And at some point, we'll get to the biggest one like HP, Dell, and so on. So this is truly trying to bring you a fully integrated stack from the bottom, from the hardware up to the orchestration layer and backup layer for your VMs. Let's talk about XO6. So for the first time in a while, we split XO6 News and XO Lite, since we had a reasonable amount of news in both projects, especially in XO6 this month. So we have new components, and again, we just keep you posted about those components. But we did a lot more than this month than building components. We started to really use them. So, for example, now you have the pool view. So just enter the Xen Orchestra appliance URL/v6, and it will display you that. So if you click on the pool, you will have the host tab, and we'll do a recap on all your machine with the UID, the name, and the description of the host. And if you click on it, you will go to the host view, obviously. And with the same for the host view, where when you click on the host, either in the tree view or from the previous link I showed you, you will have now a VM tab where you could have all the status of all the VMs and the description and so on. And you could change the name, description, blah, 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 and things like this. We also added the quick task view. So this is where the huge amount of work we have with XO tasks. So remember, you have the XCP-ng task, which are pretty basic, but we decided to add an extra layer of task on top of those. For example, when you do a task that is complex, like a rolling pull update, automatically Xen Orchestra will create a rolling pull update task and provide all the subtask progress and the general progress. And this is now displayed right in the top bar of the main view of XO6. So this, gives you more and more every release we're doing how XO6 will be really, great in terms of UX and UI to see everything happening. And next release, you'll have also even an entire new view that I'm sure you will love. So we are moving further and faster than before. And as you see, it starts to, provide you contents and things that you could actually see in concrete fashion. It's not more theory anymore or promises anymore. It's like delivering new features. Let's switch on XOLite. So this month, I have a really cool feature for XOLite that I really like. Historically, when we first started to release XOLite, it was like a small HTML file that is running on a host, but loading the JavaScript on our server. So you could see like more or less a SaaS version, if you like. So the pro is you have a fully up-to-date version that we could update it many times per day if we want. You always load the latest one. The drawback is you need to have an internet connection to enjoy XOLite or to open your firewall. And in some cases, it's not possible. What we did then is, but that was fine, for the first phase when we wanted to test and so on. So the second phase was creating a full package right into the XCP-ng. So we had to, demonstrate that we are capable of working together between the XOLite team and XCP-ng team, the packaging team, and so on and so on. So we distributed the package, loading XO fully locally, meaning that you open the link and it will load the JavaScript from XCP-ng into a browser. The thing is, as soon as we want to update XOLite, we have to provide an XCP-ng update. And as you know already, we do not want to push an update every day or every week and so on. We prefer to be like monthly updates. So the cycle of XOLite is a bit faster than this, so it was a bit frustrating. So we found the best of both worlds. The good, I would say, option to do is finally to load locally if only you cannot reach our servers. So by default, if you don't have any network connection, you will enjoy the latest package version available locally on the machine. But if you have an internet connection that can reach our website with a more recent version of the JavaScript, then it will load it. So this means even if at some point we continue to grow the team and make daily releases or at least weekly releases of XOLite, then just by loading it, you will have the latest updates. And if you are in a fully air-gap environment, then you will wait for the monthly release of the new updates of XCP-ng. So it's based on both worlds and allows us to accelerate even with XOLite. Another thing is when you access XOLite, you got an XO button on the top, allowing you to access your Xen Orchestra that was deployed on your pool. So, linking XOLite and Xen Orchestra is really handy because the two tools are not exactly serving the same purpose. Xen Orchestra is really meant to be the central tool, while XOLite is really like Lite version, as per its name. And now you can configure the way the URL of your Xen Orchestra appliance is reported. So if you use a custom one, a source one with whatever specific port for it, you can make the configuration in this setting. So this might be helpful if you have any custom type of installation. We also improved the tree view, and what's great with that is this enhancement was both useful for XO6 and XO Lite, because again, as you know, we made the decision like a year ago to have let's say common components between the two interfaces, and this is one example why it's great. Before, you can see the when the host was empty without any VM, it was not aligned with the other host due to a bug in the mockup. And so we made the improvements for XO Lite, but as it's a shared component, it's also fixed in XO6. So again, it's a great demonstration that take the time to make it right is already paying right now. So this is sometimes, you are really impatient to use the new UI and so on. We know that, but taking the time to do things the right way is in the long run better. And that's, I would say, most of the Vates philosophy in general is we like to do things the right way instead of being too, draft for some features. And as long as we're not happy with the stability, we consider a feature not finished, and so on and so on. So again, we're happy to have a consistent, the same components shared between the two. So for XOA, we have now focusing on only two ways to deploy it. One for XO Lite, where you could deploy a fresh Xen Orchestra directly from XO Lite, and the other one from our website. And historically, we have also you could deploy from the XCP-ng web pages, you could deploy from Xen Orchestra website, and so on. So we had to maintain like 4 or 5 different web deployment tools. So we decided to focus only two, the XO Lite one, and the vates.tech/deploy URL will give you, a great experience for the two. So we could, add options and things only for the right two ways to make the web deployment. So it's, focusing on all things that are related to our new components and UI and UX to give you a consistent experience between all the tools we have. A feature in Xen Orchestra that is only for 8.3, for XCP-ng 8.3, is getting finally the accurate vision on what's happening with secure boot. Believe me, it's very complex. There's many ways secure boot won't work if you don't have certificates the right way, blah, 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 and so on. And we wanted to be absolutely sure to warn you enough that you will never be tricked thinking you have secure boot activated while it doesn't work. Because the problem with secure boot is it's mostly failing silently. So you might think you are under secure boot and having trust about that while it's not active. So we spend a reasonable amount of time to check all the potential scenarios where it's enabled but not working the way it should, and providing you all the warnings to be sure it works. Like, yeah, it should work only with UEFI. So if you enable the toggle for secure boot, but you boot in BIOS, you will be warned that it won't provide you secure boot. It seems obvious this way, but it's so error prone to forget about it that we wanted to be sure to not give you a false confidence thing. And because security is really important for us, warning you about the fact when secure boot is not working. So that's why it's truly important, and that's why we really wanted to do that. For the REST API, we exposed new endpoints. So the first one is the server endpoint. So the server endpoint is providing you the list of all the servers or pools that are connected in Xen Orchestra. So that's why it's rather important. You could, obviously, it won't display the password, but you get the IP address, the host name, the label, the status, knowing if it's connected or not. So it could be really useful in your monitoring infrastructure. If you want to be sure that Xen Orchestra is still connected to all the pools, you could just make a small GET request in the REST API and get the status and being sure everything is all right. So pretty handy new endpoint. And we also now expose the VDIs, so the disks of the VM in a dedicated VDI endpoint for the VM. So if you make the request, the GET request on the v0/vm/uid of the VM/VDIs, then it will display all the disks and make the resolution automatically, because VDIs are not connected directly to the VM, but through a VBD. But we do the resolution for you, and we could display all the disk information that are connected to the VM you are targeting with the UID. So you can know if it's, the description, the size, if there are snapshots, how much is used, and so on and so on. So it's also, I think, really important to have this in the REST API. Regarding the V2V tool, so the tool to migrate from VMware to Vates, this month was mostly maintenance, fixing bugs, handling many scenarios where I would say it should be universal, but there's so many different installations where you don't have sometimes the name of the disk and things like this, all the potential errors that could be triggered by VMware. We have to know those errors and to act in consequence. So we spent some time to manage many of those cases, but now it's a lot better. So if you have issues with V2V before, try again with the latest release. It might do the trick for you. And if it doesn't work, just let us know, contact us. And there's many other solutions if it doesn't work the right way. But we should be confident to cover, let's say, 80% of the use cases to migrate directly with a V2V tool. And finally, the Misc section. As you can see, it's pretty busy, despite, again, it's only 3 weeks worth of work, demonstrating that we are really working in a very efficient manner, and we have also more people working on it. The two next are, let's say, invisible improvements, meaning there's no screenshot to show, but basically the XO tasks are not buffered, meaning that we are avoiding race conditions, duplicated tasks, and so on, because we are treating them before. So this will be more efficient in the future, especially on large infrastructure having many XO tasks. This will be better in the future and might be even slightly visible right now. But even more visible is having a cache system for ZAPI calls. So ZAPI is the API of XCP-ng. And as you have more and more users on Xen Orchestra maybe sending commands to the ZAPI, it might generate a huge number of calls and loading the master node in the pool. And so with our new cache system, as all the commands will go first to XO server, which is a central part where all the XO clients are connected, we are able to group or cache hundreds and hundreds of calls at the same time. And this will reduce by a lot the number of ZAPI calls. And this means that if you have hundreds of hosts with dozens or dozens and even a few hundreds users on Xen Orchestra, that might divide the load by a huge number. So it's like, it was not trivial, but not that complex too, and the results should be really visible for people with large infrastructure. And about that, it's also because we have more and more people running very large infrastructure based on XCP-ng and Xen Orchestra, like hundreds and hundreds of hosts, even thousands of physical hosts managed by one Xen Orchestra. So we have to make it scale, and cache is one way to achieve it. For sleeve coalescing, this is for very specific use cases when you want to trigger a coalesce, to force a coalesce in your chain. This shouldn't be useful for like 99% of your use cases, but sometimes when the storage is like a bit overcrowded and so on, you might decide to do this. This will pause the VM, make the coalesce, and unpause it. This might trigger the VM being unavailable for maybe a few minutes. So this is something only required in some very specific situations. So I won't enter into the details. If you don't know, then you do not need that. We improved the warning message when you reattach a storage repository to be sure that you won't overwrite the previous content. So it's a new safeguard. You have to write yourself the sentence, create a new SR, and could be really useful to avoid doing a mistake. Again, that's part of the work, of the core work of Xen Orchestra, is to help you as a tool with your everyday's work as a sysadmin to avoid doing mistakes. So that's exactly why we introduced that. Also, yeah, as an admin, if you want to create more VMs than the quotas available, now you can do so. I mean, there is no reason you cannot, but we were like a bit too strict with it. So users cannot overcome the quotas, but then even admin couldn't, which doesn't make sense since the admin is setting the limits. So what we wanted to do is to bypass that, because in some situation, the admin might want to create more VMs in self-service or raise the resources and so on without being blocked by a limit he set himself. Anyway. And to finish, we had interesting contribution also in the last months, mostly language contribution, translation contribution. So we are adding Persian language in Xen Orchestra 5. Remember, you have to click on this small icon to access your zone and then click on the right language. It makes us supporting up to 14 languages with the XO5. And we also added Swedish this month. So the total is pretty huge, and for us that's great. It means it's meant to be used by people all around the world. I mean, we are selling the product in more than 100 countries, but that's just paid customers. So in terms of community, we are probably used in almost all countries in the world. So it helps to connect to our users by speaking their own language. And if you want to provide a translation, that will be really welcome. It's not that hard to do. And we have more and more contributors to do so. So that's why also in XO-Lite, we have also Persian, because the same person who made a contribution for XO5 did for XO-Lite. So XO-Lite is now available in 4 different languages, but we hope that it will continue to raise. We are even working on the future to maybe have a central translation files for both XO-Lite and XO6. That would be wonderful, and we might try to select a tool to make it easier for contributors to make translations without having to make a pull request or something like this. So we are finding the right tool to help the community to translate it in the most efficient manner possible. So that's for the future. That's it for today. Thank you very much for attending this or listening this podcast or viewing this video. I hope you are happy with the pace we continue to have even for a 3 weeks long release. And we hope to have other exciting stuff coming for the August release at the end of the month of August. Well, in general, to give you some hints, we'll probably continue to accelerate on the front end and continue to stabilize the back end. So that's, I would say, the target we have for the next 1 or 2 release, basically, to be sure we can keep a decent stability for all the backup features and so on, while bringing you new things. But I won't spoil it. You will see it for the next August release, what we will bring to XO6. I'm pretty sure you will love it. So thank you very much again, and see you next month. Bye-bye.